Welcome into America's Forum on this Tuesday morning. The movie American Sniper is a huge box office hit, but does it tell the true story of all involved? Let's go in depth. Joining us via satellite from Phoenix, Arizona, the mother of slain Navy SEAL Mark Lee, Debbie Lee. Debbie, thank you so much for your time.
You bet. It's great to be here today, JD.
Now, Debbie, you've been quoted as saying, American Sniper is not a documentary, it's Hollywood. Could you elaborate on that observation?
You bet. It obviously is a movie that was made in Hollywood. It's not a documentary. It is based on the book that Chris wrote, American Sniper. So they took liberties in licensing to change up some of the story, to change up some of the characters. Bradley Cooper did an absolutely amazing job on Chris's character. He worked really hard to make sure that he got him right. He studied him, got his accent down close to that, and the message of the movie is absolutely amazing. But the Mark Lee that you see portrayed in that movie is not my son. I tell people the true part of Mark, his name was Mark Lee. He did get shot in the mouth and he did have a funeral. But other than that, they took quite a bit of liberties in licensing on Mark's character. But it is an amazing movie that has an amazing message that I know Chris would be very proud of. And I'm excited to see the impact that it's having on Americans across our country, across the world. People are watching this movie and getting a better understanding into who our troops are, the sacrifices they make overseas, the decisions that have to be made, the sacrifices their families make back at home, and then the importance for us to make sure that we take care of them when they return home, emotionally, physically, whatever their needs are, and that we don't forget our families of the fallen.
Debbie, I want to return to your story and that of your son, Mark. You attended a premiere in New York, is that correct?
Yes, I did.
And when you were there watching the motion picture and watching the death of your screen son, that must have been really very difficult.
I can tell you that was the most emotional, heart-wrenching movie that I have ever watched. As you said, knowing that the character that portrays my son on that screen does get shot and dies in front of my eyes. They relive his funeral. There's a part where the actress that's being me reads part of Mark's letter in there. And Chris Kyle became like a son to me. So to watch his story as well, to watch the footage of the funeral at the end and the processional. I was there that day, and to relive that, we just passed the 2-year mark of Chris's death. And it is very real to see that. Those are the memories that we have. And so it was very heart-wrenching to watch these stories, knowing that both of these young men in my life are gone, but knowing that we must carry on their missions.
And part of carrying on their mission is an accurate representation of what really transpired. I think those of us who go to see a motion picture and know it is, quote, based on a real story, understand that there has to be dramatic license, at least in terms of combining events. But the Mark Lee we meet in Chris's book is very different from the Mark Lee on the screen. What are your principal concerns? What was taken out of context, and what should people know about your son, Mark Lee?
Well, I think first of all, they can go to our website at americasmightywarriors.org and read Mark's entire letter. We call that his glory letter. As in the film, it starts out, some men seek glory and others find it stumbling on them, not expecting it to find them. Mark wasn't seeking glory. It stumbled on him. But that paragraph that's read there totally takes Mark's letter out of context, and people need to read that entire letter to get a better glimpse into who Mark was. Mark totally believed in the mission. He believed in what he was doing there. And there's one line in the film where Mark's character says, "I don't believe in what we're doing here." That wasn't true. And then the distortion to take his last letter home, read that part. I don't want to give away the whole film, but there's a discussion after Mark's funeral where Chris and Tay are talking in the truck. And she says, "What's up with that letter?" And Chris's reply to her was, "Mark didn't die. in Ramadi that day. Mark died when he wrote that letter. That was life leaving him. And it could not be further from the truth. Mark's letter was written about 2 weeks before he died. He meant it to go to just a few family and friends. And that was Mark living on here on earth, even long past. It's been 8 years, and that letter is still impacting lives and changing lives all over the world. I got, just last week, received a reply at our website that somebody that said, I was thinking about suicide, and I read your son's letter, and I read your story, and I decided if you could carry on, that I could carry on. I needed to continue to live. This was another one of our troops who served.
More with Debbie Lee right after this. You're watching America's Forum from Newsmax TV. Back now on America's Forum, pleased to be joined by Debbie Lee, mother of Navy SEAL Mark Lee, who was killed in action and depicted in the motion picture American Sniper. Let's continue our conversation with her right now. I can only imagine, first of all, to see the screen representation of your son's death, and then to see his letter taken out of context and that fictional visit home by Chris Kyle with his wife, and words that you said obviously did not fit your son. I'm wondering, in the wake of the motion picture, your reaction when the lights went up in the theater.
Well, I had been crying. I had been shaking. It was that very emotional, not quite like the funeral, but it was pretty doggone close to that depth of emotions. The pain, the intense grief, again, reliving some of that. But as I look back, I am so proud of Chris Kyle. I am so proud of Mark Lee, of Ryan Job, all the rest of those SEALs that are portrayed in there.
Well, let's make the
Kyle.
distinction. Let's make the distinction, Debbie. You're proud of the service of your son, Mark Lee, proud of Chris Kyle, proud of the SEALs. You've become really the SEAL mom nationwide. But I would have to imagine that you're less proud of the screenplay and perhaps even Mr. Eastwood's direction. When you look at it now and you've had some time to think about it, I know this may be a strong term, but in the military we're familiar with fratricide, friendly fire. In this motion picture, was this a film version of fratricide, at least in a portion of the memory of Mark Lee?
Well, it definitely felt like an attack on Mark, to us who knew the real Mark, who knew him, who knew his story. Again, this is Chris Kyle's story. But, and people have said that part of Clint Eastwood's style is when there's a hero in a movie that they really lift him up and push everybody around him down to make him look even bigger than life. Chris didn't need to be made bigger than life. He was a real hero. It doesn't get any better than that. But he was surrounded by amazing warriors and heroes who it wouldn't have changed in any of the movie to be able to share, the real parts of that. And it is heart-wrenching to see that. I don't know, what was changed because of direction, what was changed because of screenwriting, but I do want people to know that wasn't the real Mark. That Mark that you saw portrayed on the screen was not who my son was. It was not his character. It was not his heroic actions. The day he died, he stood out in the direct line of fire 3 different times that day, willingly gave his life to save his teammates and give the gift of life to them. And that wasn't shown on that screen. And maybe one day we will have a movie that will be Mark's story, that will show the real Mark, who he was, the real warrior. But in the meantime, we have this movie, and I still would encourage people to go see it. The purpose of that movie is fulfilled in the message that comes across. And I see the lives that continue to be changed when people watch this movie, when they have their eyes opened into the sacrifices that are made for you and for me and for the freedoms that we enjoy every day. And life's never been easy on me. I've had a lot of trials and things I've had to go through. So for me, this is just another way to keep me in the fight, to keep sharing Mark's story, who he was, what he was like, his story, keep that alive, his memory. And so I guess I've kind of got my work cut out for me.
And with the 30 seconds that remain, Debbie Lee, would you tell us more about your website and your organization, America's Mighty Warriors?
You bet. We started that in response to Mark's amazing last letter home, and his name meant Mighty Warrior. But it's not just about Mark, it's about each one of our men and women who serve and sacrifice. And we have 4 main things that we do. We do retreats in Texas for our wounded warriors and our Gold Star families. We have a house in Arizona called the Heroes Hope Home, where our families of the fallen can come stay free for the week. We're paying for hyperbaric oxygen therapy treatments for our troops with TBI and PTSD. And then we do a lot of advocacy. So you'll find me up on Capitol Hill, lots fighting for their funding, benefits, rules of engagement. There isn't anything I wouldn't do for our troops, but we need people to continue to support us so we can fulfill the mission. We don't have any paid salary, so the majority of what comes in does go to the programs. And they can reach out to us at americasmightywarriors.org. And if they haven't read American Sniper yet, they can also purchase that on our website and get Chris's true story.
Debbie Lee, we thank you for your time and setting the record straight, even as you extol the overall message of the film American Sniper. Thank you for your time, thank you for your sacrifice, and thank you for your son, Mark Lee.
Thank you.
Once again, the website is americasmightywarriors.org. And for your copy of the #1 bestseller, and to read the whole story of Chris Kyle, the most lethal sniper in U.S. history, go to newsmax.com/sniper. When we come back, we go behind the curtain, so to speak. Our old pal from Washington, pundit, ex-lobbyist Jack Berkman joins us. There's more ahead on America's Forum. Stay with us.